invite everyone to address our assembly with words of inspiration, lessons learned, and passionate ideas. Every opinion expressed here is strictly that of the person who gives it. Let us consciously and lovingly agree to disagree if it does not resonate with us. The topic for today is Spiritualism 101, and it is my pleasure to present Reverend Cindy as our speaker today. And we have these books that give our speaker bio. I think I'm going to read this just for fun. I keep knocking things. This is for you, actually. So. See what it says about Cindy Hudson, because most of these are really out of date. So. Reverend Cindy was ordained by Fellowships of the Spirit in 2002. She has been involved with the Church of the Angels since 1999, and she has accepted a leadership role within the church for most of those years. That is for sure. Cindy works as an occupational therapy and currently supports other therapists, lots of them, as a compliance director for her company. Her passions include the church, her family, nature, and her dog. And we cannot thank Reverend Cindy for all she's done for this church. It's not even do it alone. It takes a village, right? It takes a congregation for there to be a real church. So thank you, Reverend Fran. I'm just going to put this aside for a moment because, of course, I always have my notes. And I lost your notes. That's okay. Good morning, everybody. We got the sunshine coming out. You know, it was like a 79% chance of rain this morning when I went out for a run. So I was geared up. And it didn't rain. So it must have been because I geared up. We got sunshine. I don't know. But thank you for being here this morning. I'm excited to talk to you today about Spiritualism 101. You know, I've been involved with church, as Reverend Fran said, for a long time. And you think you kind of have looked at different aspects or you know things and you think, I've got that. And I don't. But no, I still learn stuff every time I look into a topic. So hopefully you'll learn something as well. Or if not, you'll at least know, you'll have confirmation of what you already know. But the National Spiritualist Association defines spiritualism as the science, philosophy, and religion of continuous life based on the demonstrated fact of communication by means of mediumship with those who live in the spirit world. And that definition came about in 1919, so a few years old, right? Like well over 100 now. But it's still true. So the science part of spiritualism is because it does investigate, analyze, and classifies the facts and the manifestations demonstrated from the spirit side of life. Spiritualism is a philosophy because it studies the laws of nature, and it's a religion because it strives to understand and comply with the physical, mental, and spiritual laws of nature, which are the laws of God. As a spiritualist is one who believes, as a basis of their religion, in communication between this and the spirit world by means of mediumship. And this person endeavors to mold their character and conduct. They endeavor to mold their character and conduct in accordance with the highest teachings derived from such communication. All that is paraphrased from the National Spiritualist Association of Churches, or NSAC. So although the Church of the Angels is not a part of the NSAC, remember we say we are an independent, non-denominational spiritualist assembly. And those are words, but those words are pretty important when this church separated itself from the National Association for a host of reasons that are beyond what I'm going to talk about. But those concepts about, you know, we strive to live with high integrity, and we know that we have communication with those on the other side to help us here on this side. Those concepts still hold true. Spiritualists, as you probably know, we have no creed. You know, we don't have to recite dogma. We do have our statement of principles, but I know that there are people in attendance at any given Sunday's congregation that don't totally embrace those statement of principles. Other things with this church do resonate for them, and that's why they're here, and that's why everybody is welcomed, okay? So we have our statement of principles, and according to the NSAC, the National Spiritualist Association of Churches, the principles of spiritualism are, as I'm about to say, because I got this little cool card up in Lilydale, and it consolidates a lot of lengthy phrases into some succinct thoughts. So the principles of spiritualism are that we believe in God. We believe that God is expressed through all nature,
True religion is living in obedience to nature's laws. We never die. Spiritualism proves that we can talk with people in the spirit world. Principle number 6, be kind, do good, and others will do likewise. Number 7, we bring unhappiness to ourselves by the errors we make, and we will be happy if we obey the laws of life. Number 8, every day is a new beginning. And 9, prophecy and healing are the expressions of God. So that's some of those traditional beliefs. And I think that, parts of that we've all heard, like, the golden rule, do unto others as you'd have done unto you. That's one of those principles. We believe in God. And for my talk, some of you might not really like the concept of the word God. If you conceive the creator or the divine or any other name that expresses that universal energy of love, feel free to substitute my word God for your word. That makes sense to you. So we believe that through messages from spirit, through divine law, studying philosophy, science, other religions, and studying nature, truths can be found. And truth is the highest religion. This parallels something I once heard of a Buddhist Rinpoche. Rinpoche is like a teacher named in the Buddhist tradition. And he explained, he was asked in this Q&A session, if Buddhists believe in God. And his answer, he paused a moment, he said, well, God is our truth. I thought, well, that's interesting. God is truth, whatever you conceive that to be, right? So now I still find that elusive concept about what is truth, because it said that there's your truth, there's my truth, and there's a universal truth. So there's 3 different things. We know, you've heard like, okay, if 3 people witness an incident of some sort, you're going to have 3 different impressions about what happened, right? So there's your truth, my truth, and then the universal truth. So that's okay. Truth is a very subjective, potentially, topic, I guess we could say. But the one thing I do understand about truth is that it is not absolute, right? Rewind 200 years ago, the fact that something invisible can make you sick, that's crazy talk, and then truth shifts as we start to understand bacteria and microbes and all that kind of stuff, right? So being open to the evolution of truth is a tenet of spiritualism. Okay, and exploring, testing, and possibly altering our beliefs about truth is essential to all of our growth. Dr. Victoria Barnes is quoted as saying, spiritualism is a provable religion of naturalness based upon physical and spiritual manifestations of the great universal, immutable, eternal natural law governing both finite and infinite expressions found in the mortal and immortal worlds. And that's a handful, but that's a lot, right? Yeah, but it's truth, and it's throughout. So now I went down the rabbit hole of, okay, what's natural law? Because so much seems to be based on natural law. And again, in spiritualism, we talk about, we believe that God is expressed through all nature and that true religion is living in obedience to nature's laws. Well, okay, I get gravity and, sun, set, and rise and all that kind of stuff, but what else are natural law? So the spiritualist definition, because when I looked at this, there's a host of definitions about natural law. So you might have a different impression, and that's fine, because there's all different facets and all different truths about what is natural law. But the one I kind of resonated with me for being a spiritualist is that natural law allows us to make mistakes so we might learn. All of us learn from one mistake, and sometimes we repeat the mistakes over and over because we haven't learned the complete lesson. So I once saw a joke that said, I learned so much from my mistakes, I'm going to make a few more. That's me. Well on my way. And also one of my teachers said that you never step into the same river twice. The water's always flowing, always shifting, and always changing. And so that river of knowledge and understanding is always flowing. And so what might appear to be the same mistake really isn't. You just need to repeat the experience to learn more from it and whatever your soul needs to gain from that opportunity. So you want to be mindful of your mistakes, but I would suggest that you not beat yourself up, because it might feel like, oh, here I go again, dating the same wrong person or reacting to the same stuff that I thought I was going to not react to. We are growing and evolving, but we have more to learn. And so that's why you keep dating the same wrong person or keep making those same mistakes, because there's more to learn. Again, don't beat yourself up. And again, that sounds like the spiritualist eighth principle that says every day is a new beginning. Behold, I make all things anew. And that includes us every day. Gordon Burroughs, in his book, Becoming a Spiritualist, and there might be a copy back there in the library. It's out of print now, but it's a really concise book that explains a lot of the facets of spiritualism. And he talks about spiritualism as God's message. So in developing yourself, increasing self-awareness, and striving to grow spiritually, we feel and know substantial insights related to God, to life, to death, and to the kind of universal scheme of it all. And what's really our purpose here? So we can study these things and become aware of those truths. And in that way, we are developing ourselves spiritually as well. We can get insights to life's major questions, and that information can be gained on a personal level by developing your relationship with God. How many people have had like a meditation or a quiet moment where they had an insight to a problem? Everybody can raise your hand, right? Because it's happened. That's the way the universe is wired up. When we think about it, sometimes we get in the way. When we let the thoughts go and go with the flow, then that inspiration or knowledge or wisdom can arise, right? Another one of my teachers just said, link, don't think. It's like, yeah, link to the source, don't think it through, don't overanalyze it, right? My sister has a bumper sticker that says, wait, let me overanalyze this. And it's true for her. I might be genetically related to her because it's true for me too. So Gordon Burroughs goes on to support the science of spiritualism as we prove the continuity of life by bringing through messages. And that's no surprise to anybody here today. I remember back in the 80s and 90s, and even it's going on today, but there were a lot of studies done on mediums. They'd bring mediums into some clinic and put all the wires on their head and, the cards that they couldn't have seen, what's on this card type of thing. So they're looking at accuracy rates, they're looking at brainwave patterns and all that. And believe it or not, okay, there is an energy science can't yet explain that enables a medium to receive a message. They're looking at delta waves and theta waves and beta waves, all our brain waves. And it's kind of this and kind of that, but not really any of it. So just like 200 years ago, we didn't understand that something invisible could make you sick. I think at this point, there is something that we just don't understand that enables that medium to connect and get those messages. And we know we're all mediums. We've all gotten messages. We all have, whether you know it or not. Sometimes those moments of inspiration are exactly what that is, right? On a study, and I thought this was interesting, the National Institute of Health, so, like National Institute of Health government organization, one study in 2013 suggested that it is a different and distinct mental state that a medium enters to be able to receive messages. They couldn't conclusively state the type of brainwave, as I said, and Gordon Burroughs clarifies in his books that spiritualism isn't the same as palmistry or astrology or numerology. Those are each distinct and separate sciences. So I don't mean to kind of throw any shade on palmistry or astrology. Those things are wonderful. And they're their own distinct sciences from spiritualism. And they have a lot to offer us as well as we try to understand the world around us through other facets, I guess we'll say. So they're good, just not the same as spiritualism. So if spiritualism as a religion hopes to align us humans with nature's laws, I want to talk about natural law again for another minute. And again, a little bit more about what it is. We know that it's not dogma because we don't do that in this church, right? That it's the knowing in your core, in your inner core, that we are a part of God and a part of all that is. And that death opens the door to a fuller life. And every being is a part of the master plan of the universe. We know in our core. And sometimes, at least me as a human, there's times I know that. I'm out in nature and it's like, oh, I am so divine and so divine in me and so divine around me and I'm one. And then there's that idiot on the freeway, right? So, we're human, okay? But we can try to hold on to the thought that we are all a part of God and God is a part of us. And according to Mr. Burroughs, as I looked over other explanations of natural law, like I said, there's a ton of different definitions. But coming from a spiritualist as he did, a spiritualist perspective, I'm using his definition that it's our ability to learn from mistakes, knowing in our core that we are a part of God. The National Spiritualist Association of Churches goes on to say that through prayer, meditation, and listening to your inner voice and service, But these are all ways to reach and better understand God or the divine source. So we know prayer, meditation certainly links us to the divine. Listening to our inner voice, we know we're listening to that small, still voice within. And service also is a way of linking to the divine. So to truly know that we are all a part of the divine, okay, all those are ways and keys to help you get to that level of understanding. And they go on to explain that service is important because if we serve life, we serve mankind or animal kind or the mother nature, whatever, if we serve life, we serve the higher energies and the divine, since everything connects with God. We're God, we're all God, and as we serve God. Reverend Walt Faster, who was our foundational pastor, used to have, when he facilitated almost all the church services back in the day, and one of his phrases is, we serve God best when best we serve other people. And I always liked that phrase, but now I actually figured out where it came from, is because service is a part of the spiritualist roots, I'll say, even though we've taken our own path, okay? So, again, we serve God best when best we serve other people. And then I went down another rabbit hole as I was writing this up. I thought I had written this up earlier this week, and then last night rearrangements came through. So another rabbit hole that I went down was in developing this talk is what makes us different. We know that most churches here in this community aren't having a last half hour for healings and messages from Spirit, right? We're pretty unique in that regard. But what else makes us different? So I looked at some of the other major world religions about what some of their beliefs are on mediumship, singular. So what I found out, is that we're going to start with Christianity, for example. Many of us have that in our background of various sources. And as you may know, most mainstream Christian churches are really not in favor of consulting with mediums and so forth and getting messages for guidance from Spirit. I can't speak today. What the heck? And I said this just beautifully, like last night when I was rehearsing. Leviticus 19:31 basically says, don't go to a medium because they'll defile you. They'll trick you. They'll fool you. It's like, well, thanks a lot. Really not what I went to school for, to learn how to do this stuff, right? And yet Reverend Walt, he developed a multiple pages, typed, written, because, back in the 90s we'd use typewriters. But it was this multiple page document, hand typed, about all the references about mediumship and healing and prophecy in the Bible. So there's a lot of information in the Bible in favor of mediums and in favor of prophecy and healings. So again, one document, one Bible, one book. Sometimes depends where you choose to focus and what resonates for you. In Judaism, the Torah prohibits seeking psychic powers. The Kabbalah, which is speaking to the mystical branch of the Jewish tradition, the Kabbalah touches on aspects of mediumship, but this practice is reserved for the elite practitioners. And so for the very holy men, they might be able to divine messages, but it's not a mainstream part of Judaism. So then we get to Hinduism. And this faith practices calling in loved ones from the other side. In Hinduism, mediumship is well accepted. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, that makes sense because Hinduism is such a diverse, multifaceted religion. Buddhists believe life and death is a continuum, and yet they're actually neutral about mediumship. It's their belief that if you understood the teachings of the Buddha, that you would have no need to consult a medium. That's probably true too, right? But, just like me getting irritated on the freeway, I want a little sneak peek about what's going on for me, right? So, but I do understand. I can embrace that thought as well. And finally, in the Islamic faith, I think that a lot of times we think about other major religions, but the Muslim faith is growing exponentially throughout the world. And so in the Islamic faith, again, mediumship is discouraged. They believe the afterlife is the world of jinn, Jinn, and that's a world that parallels ours. So to them, spirit contact is jinn contact, and jinn spirits aren't necessarily your loved ones, so they also might be out to fool you or trick you. So I think, wow, that's kind of interesting. We got like only one major religion that's really supportive of mediumship, the Hinduism. And my thought about that comes down to personal responsibility and accountability, and you may or may not agree with me on this. Remember, the third spiritualist principle says true religion is living in obedience to natural law. And we say reality is as one chooses to perceive and will change as one grows in knowledge of the inner self and all that. So again, a spiritualist view of natural law says that we're here to learn, and we can learn from our mistakes. And I think that, you can go down another whole path about, who's in charge, who's empowered. This is my unscientific thought, is that if I make prophecy and mediumship kind of either an elite or prohibited practice, then I'm in control. Whereas if I enable you to go seek your own answers by listening to that still voice within, or if I enable you to get help with your answers by talking to a medium or a psychic, that diminishes my control. So that's another whole talk, and I don't really want to go down that path. That's not my intention here. What I do want to say is that spiritualism promotes self-awareness, self-responsibility, trial and error, and then learning from our mistakes, personal autonomy. Okay? So Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, which is a big, long French name. Believe it or not, he was actually a French philosopher, paleontologist, and he was also a Jesuit priest. And he is known for his famous saying that I always thought came from Wayne Dyer, but see, you look into stuff and then you learn something. So he had a lot of deep thoughts about the meaning of life and our existence, our relationship with the divine. And he is the one who created the phrase, and I saw it on a bumper sticker out here. Somebody has it a bumper sticker. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? So again, that's from a Jesuit priest, understanding that we are connected to the divine on such a profound level. I think if we can keep that in mind as we go about our daily lives, if we can see the God in others, and perhaps more importantly, seeing the God in ourselves, seeing that oneness, we can honor the divine, we can develop ourselves, and we can at least embrace a facet, if not the whole, idea of spiritualism. Okay? And that's what I have to share this morning, but I'm open to comments, questions. No rotten tomatoes, please, because I know tomatoes are growing on the vine out there. Y'all probably have an abundance in your garden. Batya.
Yeah, thank you so much for your clarity and your presence. I just wondered if that document that Walt prepared covered the Old Testament or just the New Testament?
Both. Oh, yeah.
Available to us somewhere?
You know what? I have a typewritten copy, and I have your email, right? So I could scan it and send it to you. Because it is typed out, and it's like multiple pages, so I won't retype, but I'll scan and send. Absolutely. I'm just going to leave myself a note because I need to leave a note.
I do have a question. Okay, so as I was reading the, our prayer, vessel prayer, and I was thinking that I had a comment, but I couldn't quite put the comment together right. That was like where we say thank you for something rather than asking for something. And I was trying to figure out, where did I learn that? Is that just a practice that we come up with, or is that part of spiritualism?
In my opinion, I don't think that that's solely a spiritualist belief. So the question was for in Zoom, if you didn't hear. So when we say that, thank you in advance for such abundance, or thank you in advance, it's not necessarily only a spiritualist belief, but when we think about manifesting, if I say, Lord, I want a Cadillac, I'm going to keep wanting a Cadillac, which is fine because I don't really want a Cadillac, but, we're going to bring about the energy of want. Whereas if we say thank you, because we know in divine order, all things are coming into our lives for our highest and best, but they may not be here right now. But when it gets here, I'm saying thank you. I'm going to manifest it in the now by saying thank you as opposed to want. Does that make sense?
It does, but it's still kind of it's kind of a basis based on spiritualism, that practice, right? I mean, I was just trying to think of, I wanted to explain this for people that didn't, why are they already thanking when so-and-so's still sick,
Okay, sure, because that feels like you're almost gaslighting it.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's just bringing it into the now as opposed to putting it into the future, because it's now somewhere.
Right.
If that makes any sense, yeah. Reverend Barbara.
Well, I had a comment. When I first connected with spiritualism, there were a lot more native people that would come through, and that is definitely an indigenous practice to be grateful. Their prayers are always grateful. And I don't know, there aren't a lot of Native people that come through here. But anyway, that's certainly somewhere that is connected to spiritualism.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I agree with you that, like I said, it's not just a spiritualist thing, although when we talk about manifesting and Florence Shinn and some other authors, Waddles, they wrote books about manifesting around about 1918-ish. So yes, spiritualism was a thing then, but they didn't necessarily identify themselves as spiritualists, and yet they wrote amazing books about how to manifest and how to bring things through in the now. But so yeah, I would agree that it's very old, it's very ancient, and again, communicating the spirit is nothing new either, as the Native Americans would teach us. Okay.
I did have one other comment.
Sure.
The interesting thing is about the different religions and how most of them said, don't go near it, don't go near it. I think that this is a personal opinion, but I think that's the leadership of those, because an example is I have a friend who is an Ursuline nun, and she's been a friend for a long time. When I first started getting involved in this church and I started telling her stuff about it, she said, I agree with every single thing you're saying. So it's not necessarily, even their, I don't know what you would call a nun, a representative or a disciple,
Sure,
or whatever, but even she did not believe what the leaders of the church were saying. I doubt she ran around shouting it from the rooftops, but she believed everything. She said, I agree with everything you're saying. So
the people that are saying, no, don't do that. I mean, I understand there is just like taking some herbal medicines can be not real effective for some people. Okay. And there are some charlatans out there that are going to say, oh, this, it's a bottle of water, but they're going to tell you it's some awesome tonic to cure all your ills, So yeah, there are always tricksters out there, and you want to be careful about that. But they're not all tricksters, right? We know that. So yeah, I think, and I agree, the leadership sometimes is one thing, and people know when you pray and when you hear Jesus's voice, if you're a nun or whoever you would honor, and when you get that insight and you hear that small still voice within, how could you not believe?
right.
Yeah. So thank you, Fran. Good question. And then Carol, yeah.
I was just going to say, going back to faithfulness and prayers. Of course, I can't remember the whole formula, but I learned years ago. This was in a Christian church, United Church Christ, the Pilgrim. Every prayer starts with thanking. It's not exactly the same, but thankfulness was always first.
Yeah. Thank you. Other comments, Batya?
No, I just wanted to say about palmistry that when I first gave a talk about palmistry, Walt taught me a way to do palmistry.
Oh wow! So
I know some spiritualists like photographs. Use the body.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, so this is this interconnectedness. Awesome, thank you, Batya.
And also the Kabbalistic rabbis. Palmistry is different communication. Like they're against cards. They think the body is made from God. It's just a differentiation.
Neat. So I like that line that since our bodies are made from God, we can channel God. We can channel spirit, right? Did I say that right? Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I'm going to rearrange it all. So thank you, though, Batya. Thank you, and thank you for your kind attention. I appreciate it today. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Cindy.